Valentine's Day is approaching us in less than a week. On February 14th, people will celebrate romantic love, friendships, and admiration by sending messages of love and giving gifts such as chocolates, flowers, fine jewelry, and other symbols of affection to their family, friends, and partners. But on February 14th, 1929, while Chicago couples were sporting luxurious furs, sharing nice boxes of chocolates, and sniffing deep red roses, 7 Chicago North Side gang members were lined up in a Lincoln Park garage and executed, resulting in the most infamous mob hit in history. All of this was due to a battle of organized crime during the Prohibition era. I mean, champagne bottles weren't popping on Valentine's Day, but Al Capone was popping a cap in some North Side gang members' asses. Exactly. Nice. My name is Kayla, and this is Cauldron Convos, baby. I'm not even going to mention the smoke machine.
Next week.
Next week, we will be back in our old studio. I know this is kind of dreary and bleak, but we will be back. We'll decorate it some holiday. I don't know. I guess it'll be too late for Valentine's Day. Whatever.
Easter, baby.
Easter? That
oh, yeah.
isn't there like another random holiday? Mardi Gras. If you missed last week's episode, we introduced our Lord Savior Xenu. Welcome, Xenu, the producer.
Thank you. Thank you.
Happy Valentine's Day, by the way, to all of you guys. If you don't have a lover, no worries. Love yourself. Honestly, that's like the best kind of love to give. Yourself.
Wish your girlfriend Rosie Palm a wonderful Valentine's Day.
I'm still working on the self-love thing, but we'll get there. Maybe the next Valentine's Day. Since we're in Chicago, let's do St. Valentine's Day Massacre. We haven't done anything on gangs yet, or mob, or whatever. So we thought, what a good true crime little topic. And because we are in Chicago, we even went to the site of the massacre for you guys. So hold on, don't get too ahead of yourselves. We'll put it later on in the podcast, but we do go to the site, and I might be
taunting the ghosts.
Taunting the ghost. Taunting the North Side
Who's
gang.
haunting who, bitch?
But before we get any further into this video, I just wanted to ask you guys to please consider subscribing to this channel if you aren't already, because we post videos every single week here on the spine-chilling, paranormal, true crime, conspiracy topics that you definitely want to hear, you don't want to miss. We are here to entertain you, to educate you, to kind of make you laugh sometimes. Also, quick reminder, the competition is still going. 5 people that write us a letter will get a free Cauldron Convos t-shirt. Xenu is actually sporting the t-shirt today. We figured last one we didn't sport it, so this one we will. Yes, we're sending 5 free ones. Include your size, because we don't want to guess. We don't want to get canceled. We get little to no mail, so you know what? Just take the 39-cent stamp or whatever stamps cost these days. Send it. You might get yourself a little cool shirt with an alien an alien forcing someone to do chores. Vacuuming. So who was the target of this massacre? His name was Bugs Moran.
Hey, Bugs.
Hey, Bugs.
Where'd you get your booze, Bugs Moran?
Pass the carrots, Bugs. He was one of the most notorious gangsters in the Prohibition era of the 1920s. He was born in Missouri in 1893. He rose to fame as a gangster in the rough and tumble world of the Chicago underworld. He was a rival of Al Capone, and he controlled a vast criminal empire that included bootlegging, gambling, and prostitution. So not a great guy. All right?
All the best things in life.
Moran was known for his cunning and resourcefulness, and he was one of the most feared gangsters in the city. He was also a ruthless killer, and he used violence to keep his rivals in check. But despite his power and influence, Bugs Moran was never able to achieve the same level of success as his rival, Al Capone. What's the meat out there when you capiola goo that's
Capicoli. Need some capicola.
I don't know if you guys need a little rundown on Al Capone, but for those that do, we'll give you one. We're here for you. He is one of the most, famous, actually probably the most famous gangster of all time.
Yeah.
But if you don't know, if you're not familiar with the mob space, no worries. He was born in Brooklyn in 1899. He rose to fame as a ruthless gangster in the Prohibition era as well during the 1920s, and he was the head of a criminal empire that controlled much of the illegal alcohol trade in Chicago, and he became one of the most powerful and feared men in the country. And Capone was known for his brutal tactics, and he used violence and intimidation to keep his rivals in check. He was also a savvy businessman, though, and he made a fortune from his criminal enterprises. I love how he's like a criminal. He's like, he was a savvy businessman. Like, I would be too, you know?
Yeah.
If I was a criminal. Like, if I was like...
He was one of the first large money launderers.
Yeah. Like, I could go, like, rob the Gucci store and I'm a successful businessman? Really? Really? You know? He made a fortune from his criminal enterprises, building a vast network of speakeasies, brothels, and gambling dens that dominated the city's bad-to-the-bone nightlife. Despite his power and influence, Capone was eventually brought down by the law. He was arrested and convicted on tax evasion charges in 1931, and he served 7 years in prison before being released due to his declining health. He died in 1947 at the age of 48, so unrelated, but we just wanted to give a little wrap up on Al Capone's life.
He died from syphilis, which is kind of tragic, and it was featured in the 2020 film Capone.
But it's interesting because he was also just like a very brutal criminal, but he was a family man, a loving family man. He also donated to a bunch of charities, so it's like, even though he's like evading taxes, he's like,
it's crazy.
Philanthropic, you know?
I mean, and he opened up soup kitchens all around Chicago, and he was kind of seen as a Robin Hood-esque character.
Cool.
Although he was a bad man.
Bad man.
Bad man.
So now that we went through the two main gangsters, or the main heads of the gangs in Chicago during this massacre, we wanted to give you guys a little bit of background on Chicago during the time, just so you can set the
scene.
The scene. I was gonna say set the setting. Is that why it's called set?
Yes.
Wow. Okay. So now from 1924 to 1930, the city of Chicago gained a reputation for lawlessness and violence, something that it still has today, which was most likely due to Al Capone and his presence and being there and his reign as the leader of the Chicago outfit, which is sometimes referred to as the Chicago Mafia, Chicago Mob, South Side Gang. There are a bunch of other, terms, slang, lingo, probably some secret lingo too. I don't even want to talk about it, actually, because I think this mob still exists, so.
Less is more. We love everybody.
Equality to all gangs. I don't know. But the Chicago outfit was essentially an Italian-American organized crime syndicate based in Chicago, as we said. There were bloody gang wars in Chicago during this time period because this was the same period as the Prohibition era, which started in 1920, and many gangs were, profiting off of the high demand for alcohol and the zero supply of alcohol, economics 101. So many gangs were illegally selling alcohol, but things got messy. We had gangs selling alcohol in other gangs' territories. We had gangs stealing the liquor from other gangs on the Detroit River. We have all these things happening. So things are getting a little heated out here in Chicago. But the most significant hit here in Chicago was in 1929, the massacre. The St. Valentines Massacre. I don't know why I got so excited. So what happened on the day of the massacre? Now that we set the scene, we set the players up, we set the setting up, Chicago, what actually happened? Well, on Valentine's Day morning at 10:30 a.m. when, Bobby is out there buying roses for his beloved early in the morning. He's a good guy, Bobby. He doesn't wait he's not like 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock after work, going to the local florist, picking up the last pickings. No, Bobby's up there early in the morning. 10:30 is not that early, but whatever. When the flower shop opens, maybe 10:30. He's like the first one there, getting the roses. He wants the right picking for his beautiful wife. Anyway, I don't know. I just have this picture of this guy. And while this is happening, while Bobby, getting the flowers, the garage at 2122 North Clark Street in Lincoln Park, Chicago, things got messy. Most of the North Side gang arrived at the warehouse by 10:30 in the morning. But the head guy, Bugs, the guy that we're talking about, or Moran, was not there, since he left his Parkway Hotel apartment late. Now, Moran and a fellow gang member, Ted Newberry, were arriving at the back of the warehouse from a side street when they saw a police car going up to the building. So they turned back around and went to a nearby coffee shop instead. They actually ran into a gang member, Henry Gusenberg, on the street and warned him, so he also turned back. So all these Northside gang members, these are the ones that got away. They're the ones that saw trouble at the warehouse and they decided to dip, including the head honcho guy, Bugs. And another gang member, Willie Marks, also spotted the police car on his way to the garage and jotted down the license number before leaving the neighborhood. And it's said that Capone's guys probably mistook one of Moran's men for Moran himself, since one of them was like the same build, same height, wore the same thing. So it's said that probably Al Capone's men thought that Moran was in the warehouse. Now, the witnesses saw 4 men come out of the Cadillac sedan, 2 of them in a fake police officer uniform carrying shotguns. Now, it's said that the fake policeman ordered the Northside gang member men up against the wall, then signaled to the pair in civilian clothes who had accompanied them. 2 of the killers opened fire with Thompson submachine guns, one with a 20-round box magazine and the other a 50-round drum. What, is it for the theatrics, or is it just like to make sure they're dead?
I think it was for the theatrics at this point.
But no one was there. It's not like they have a freaking audience. Unless they record it for their own.
I mean, you couldn't really record it back in the day.
They didn't have some guy sitting there like, is that what they did? I don't know. Or someone drawing them while it's happening.
Like one of those painters like in Central Park.
Or like at weddings, you
Or like a caricature.
Oh my God, of them like...
With like big faces and like super expressive.
This is how the 7 gang members of George Bugs's Moran's Northside gang, mostly Irish people, were shot by these 4 gang members of an opposing gang. Now, it's said it's Al Capone's gang, but we're not sure, so we'll get into that meaty part of it later on. But they were basically shot by 4 gang members of an opposing gang. What if it was like the same gang? What if they were just like, I want to be the mechanic?
What if it was like an internal hit?
Yeah. Damn. Anyway, and one of the victims was the leader, Bugs' second-in-command and brother-in-law, Albert Kachalek. Dang. So brother-in-law, that means Bugs had to go home to his wife and be like, on Valentine's Day, and be like, so, yeah, your brother-in-law's dead?
Your brother.
Your brother's dead? I saw the cops pull up. He probably didn't mention that part, that he saw the cops pull up and was like, bye. I mean, like, what is he going to do, Walkie-talkie him? Did they have walkie-talkies? Well, they didn't have phones, but, like, did they have any type of...
Well, there were phones. They didn't have cell phones.
They had, like, the string with the can.
Yeah.
Get out. But on that note, brother-in-law wasn't the only one to go. 6 others included Adam Heyer, the gang's bookkeeper and business manager. Cooking the books, Adam. Cooking the books a little too hot. Albert Weinshank, who managed several cleaning and dyeing operations, which, like, does that mean laundering? Like, what do you mean cleaning and dyeing?
Yes.
Or are they, like, actually cleaning?
No,
maybe cleaning up the blood. Cleaning up the mess. Cleaning up the prostitute panties. Okay.
All right.
And gang enforcers Frank Gusenberg and Peter Gusenberg. Don't you love, like, the brother thing? Like, I'm just picturing them as, like, 2 twin, like, huge men.
The poor mother.
Oh, no. And 2 associates were also shot. Reinhard H. Schwimmer, a former optician turned gambler and gang associate. Like, he was an optician.
Can you imagine how, like, medieval optometry would be in like the 20s?
He's like, I'm sick of looking at people's eyes. I
guess,
want to gamble.
Like, imagine eye surgery in the 20s.
Did they even do eye surgery? What would they do?
I feel like maybe pop it out.
Just take it out. So we're gonna have to remove the eye. And John May also. Sorry. We gotta finish. This is messed up. We're going through the 7 victims. We can't even get through the 7 names. We keep making fun of these things. Whatever. They were gang members. That's how we justify it. Okay, people. They probably killed more than they would have killed more if they stayed alive than the 7 that were dead.
And we're just killing them with jokes, but they're already dead.
Yep. And lastly, John May, an occasional mechanic for the gang.
Yeah.
Like, occasional? Like, who was the main one? Why was the occasional one there?
Now, this is one of the victims I feel bad for. Just a mechanic. Leave a guy alone.
But he knew it was dirty money.
Yeah, wrong place, wrong time.
He was probably, cleaning the getaway car. He probably wiped the, whatever, engine VIN number, or whatever the heck,
So
stolen cars.
You have to be ignorant to a certain level.
Or you could be a mechanic and be like, sorry, man, I can't help you out. Unless they, put a gun to his head.
It's the Great Depression.
No, not yet. This is it's looming.
Looming.
Great Depression
He's
is looming.
He's got to save up to buy his Campbell's chicken noodle soup.
Is that what they ate? What? All of the victims were apparently dressed in their best clothes with the exception of John May, as this was a common practice for the Northsiders and a lot of other gangsters at the time. So, what was John May with? Why are they all showing up in suits? Was he in, pajamas? Oh, maybe he was the mechanic. He was in a little mechanic outfit. Now, the opposing gang, whoever they may be, used weapons that included 2 Thompson submachine guns. And after the shooting, witnesses actually said that they saw the men in police uniforms leading the other men at gunpoint out of the garage. And a crazy fact is that when the police arrived, one of the brothers, Frank Gusenberg, was still alive, even after having sustained 14 bullet wounds. And he was actually taken to the hospital.
Yeah, and once he was there, he was questioned by police. But he withheld his code of silence. Because, snitches get stitches, even though he was dying.
Apparently, when the police asked him who did it, he replied, "No one shot me."
No one shot him 14 times. Ghost.
Then he died 3 hours later. Unless maybe he really wasn't shot. Maybe he looked at his brother, was so sad that he shot himself 14 times. Hey, anything's possible. Hey, do you have video evidence? Huh?
No, I guess.
No,
I mean, we only have one witness.
We only have the illustration. Get it? The one that we were talking about, the drawing?
Yeah. the caricature.
You don't think he told his wife?
No, they took the code of silence very seriously, obviously.
Not even with your wife on Valentine's Day while you're dying, you won't even tell?
I feel like being shot 14 times was a good enough excuse to break the code of silence.
Yeah. The massacre was an apparent attempt to eliminate the Northside gang leader Bugs Moran, like we talked about. And you guessed it, Al Capone was widely assumed to have been responsible for ordering the massacre, even though he was just at his Florida home, soaking up the nice sun in February while these people were freezing and getting shot in Chicago. But the reasoning is suspected to be because of the Northside gang's hijacking of expensive whiskey that was illegally smuggled by Capone's gang from Canada via the Detroit River. And Moran and Capone had been competing to control Chicago bootlegging, which is the illegal manufacture, transport, distribution, or sale of alcoholic beverages during the Prohibition period, which took place between 1920 to 1933. The Prohibition era was just crazy. I'm not even gonna go too much into it, but can you believe for that long they banned alcohol?
I mean, yeah.
They were yep, banned.
Wasn't it? Alcohol was banned.
It was an amendment.
Yeah. Well, it was pretty crazy.
It would have been a right. That's why they had speakeasies.
Yeah.
They had speakeasies because it was illegal. People were stripped away of their rights to drink alcohol. Imagine all the stuff that went down in speakeasies. Getting shot. Bad things happening. And nowadays, a bunch of hipsters are yeah, we're gonna go to this cool speakeasy.
Yeah, where all the drinks are $40.
And we're this is crazy. It's not the same these days. It's not the same speakeasies like it was with Al Capone. Anyway.
There's no risk anymore.
Yeah,
You're not gonna get shot anymore.
I know.
You're not gonna gamble. You're not gonna.
I stopped drinking once Prohibition ended.
God bless.
Moran Bugs had also been messing with Capone's Greyhound dog track in the Chicago suburbs. He had taken over several saloons that were run by Capone, insisting that they were in his territory.
His turf.
Now, I'm not sure why this guy was so bold. Al Capone, icon, legend. Really, Bugs? You think you're just gonna take over Al Capone's saloon?
I mean, his name was Bugs.
That was his nickname. He probably gave it to himself. He probably looked at himself in the mirror and he was like, Bugs.
Hey, Bugs.
He's probably everyone used to make fun of these buck teeth. Now, I'm gonna pop them. And they're gonna see who I really am. Bugs, mob, Northside leader.
Or he just squishes everyone and it's an ironic play on the name.
Squishes? Oh, like a bug.
He squishes them.
I mean, is that how I kill bugs? A little bit earlier in that year, Frank Gusenberg and his brother Peter that were killed in this massacre unsuccessfully tried to murder Jack McGurn, who was an Al Capone guy. So is that the motive here? And the Northside Gang was also involved in the murders of Pasqualino, which was Patsy Lordo and Antonio the Scourge. What does that even mean? These are their nicknames. They all had like little mob nickname or gang nicknames. But anyway, they were the presidents of the Union Siciliana, the local mafia, and close associates of Capone. So I think that's like the Sicilian.
Yes, Sicilians. I like
Great
good
pizza.
Sicilian, yeah. Good Sicilian
No,
slice.
we both thought the same thing. But anyway, the apparent plan was to lure the leader of the Northside Gang, Bugs, to the SMC Cartage warehouse on North Clark Street to kill him, and maybe 2 or 3 of his guys while they're at it, you know? But it wasn't the plan wasn't to kill 7 people that weren't him, you know? And people assume that they were lured to this garage with the promise of a stolen shipment of liquor supplied by Detroit's Purple Gang, which was also associated with Capone. And now, fun fact, the Purple Gang was predominantly Jewish.
Interesting.
So we have all these gangs that are all different little, you know,
Races.
nationalities,
Yeah.
races,
and they
whatever.
all have their own hustle.
Mm-hmm.
And so I understand Bugs Moran's frustration because the Italians are stepping on the Irishman's toes.
I guess.
Scram.
Like, why can't I have a gang?
You could.
Can I have a gang of, like, YouTubers? Like, why isn't there a gang of YouTubers? I guess that was Team 10.
And how are you going to make money?
That was supposed to be a
Just the
TikTok
awkward
dance.
silence. I'm judging you.
Anyway. Brand deals? Duh.
You're going to extort brands. Like, you're going to hack into them. Like, give me $50,000.
Or be like, we will post that Jergens is the worst lotion unless... There goes my brand deal with Jergens. The Gusenberg brothers were probably going to drive 2 empty trucks to Detroit to pick up stolen Canadian whiskey. So that's what's, you know, allegedly that's what they think happened. But, you know, we still don't really know what it is. You know, we're trying to identify the motive. What was the goal of this massacre? And it's hard to do so without knowing who ordered this to happen. Even though we think it's Al Capone, there could be other people involved, all right? So within a few days of the massacre, Al Capone did receive a summons to testify before a Chicago grand jury on charges of federal prohibition violations. But Capone told them he was too unwell to attend. Nah, sorry, can't be there. You know, I got to eat some, I don't know. What's like an Italian soup? What's that?
Italian wedding soup.
Italian wedding soup. He's probably
I
paying
mean,
the government.
they literally did the hit in a Chicago cop car in Chicago police uniforms.
Oh,
I
I thought they were
mean-
fake. Maybe that's the dyer person.
Well, didn't he die?
Remember? Maybe they supplied
The costume guy got
costumes.
killed.
Oh wait, he was the opposite guy. He was the opposite. Yeah. Maybe all gangs have costumers.
There you
dress them
go.
in-
Maybe
You know,
this is good. Write that down for our gang.
disguises. Of YouTubers. We need a Hey, if you're a seamstress out there and you want to be a part of this. Okay, I shouldn't even joke. This is messed up. 2 landladies took in 3 men just 10 days before the massacre, and their rooming houses were directly across the street from the North Clark Street garage that the massacre happened in. The landladies picked out mug shots of Purple Gang members. So this is the Jewish one. This is not Capone's. The landladies picked out mug shots of Purple Gang members George Lewis, Eddie Fletcher, Phil Keywell, and his younger brother Harry. Stop dragging your little brothers, your other brothers, your brothers' mothers into your gang, okay? Enough.
Yeah.
Enough of the brotherly gangs. Oh, unless they're brothers in different gangs. The landladies later hesitated between their choices in the identification, so it kind of threw it all out. And there are some theories as well that the police were actually involved in the massacre, but, you know, they're theories. Less than 2 weeks later, on February 22nd, police were called about a garage fire on Wood Street, where they found a 1927 Cadillac sedan disassembled and partially burned. So they just sort of like found a Cadillac burning, and police determined that the killers had used this car. So they had a lead, right? They traced the engine number to a Michigan Avenue dealer who had sold the car to someone named James Moran of Los Angeles. Now, police couldn't find anything about, you know, on James Moran. I mean, it seems pretty obvious that people in gangs know not to, like, register cars under their own names. especially if it's their getaway vehicle. So I don't know why they even bothered to look at the name James Moran.
You could really just kind of do whatever you want in the 20s.
So the police were like, darn it, this guy doesn't exist. Now what? Well, they looked at who rented out the garage. Now, the garage that the massacre took place in was rented by someone named Frank Rogers, and the address Frank Rogers used was the same address of the Circus Cafe, which was operated by Claude Maddox, who was a former St. Louis gangster with ties to Capone's gang, the Purple Gang, and the St. Louis gang called Egan's Rats.
Egan?
Who's Egan? Egan's Rats. St. Louis. Egan's Rats. Additionally, right before the massacre, a truck driver sideswiped a police car. And he told the police officers that he stopped, but he was waved away by a uniformed driver who was missing a front tooth. Red flag. Your officer is waving you away after you sideswipe them. Just like, nah, it's fine. Don't worry about it, man. And he has a missing front tooth. Probably not a police officer. And someone else who was actually the Board of Education president had also witnessed this accident with the truck driver, and he gave the same description of the driver. So it's like, okay, missing tooth from separate witnesses. Definitely the guy had a missing front tooth. The police were pretty positive that this was Fred Burke, who was a former Egan's Rats member. But also, do you think more than one gang member has a missing tooth? With all them, with each other, smacking each other's faces with baseball bats.
100%.
Don't you think, a lot of them probably have a missing tooth here or there, everywhere? Just gums.
There, everywhere.
Just solid gums. Don't call me Bugs, call me Gums. That's one of their names. That's one of the gang members' names, Gums. And there was so much going on with all these different gangs during the Prohibition era that they also thought of some other potential killers. One being Joseph Lolordo. Perhaps he did it because his brother was recently murdered by the Northside Gang. But then the police announced that they suspected Capone gunmen John Scalise and Albert Anselmi, as well as Jack McGurn and Frank Rio, a Capone bodyguard. And police eventually charged McGurn and Scalise. And Capone allegedly murdered Scalise, Anselmi, and Joseph. His gang name, you want to know what it is? Hop Toad.
Hop Toad?
Hop Toad. Like a toad.
I like that.
Like a frog, but a toad. Hop Toad? That's not badass.
Well, neither is Egan's Rats.
Or Bugs. Or, what are the other names? Gums. That's mine. In May 1929, after he learned about their plan to kill him. Which I don't know why anyone would think they could kill Al Capone and he wouldn't find out before they had the chance, Al Capone, really? You think you're going to be able to kill Al Capone before he finds out? He has people everywhere. He got Egan's Rats running around. He got the Purple Gang members up and down the Detroit River. The only one he doesn't have is on the north side. But the police did end up dropping the charges against Jack McGurn because of a lack of evidence. But the case didn't have much going on until December 14th, 1929, when a Michigan Sheriff's Department raided the St. Joseph, Michigan bungalow of Frederick Dane, the registered owner of a vehicle driven by Fred Killer Burke. That was his name. Killer. That was his nickname. See, that one's a good one. Not Toad Hopper Toads, Frogger, whatever the guy's name was. And Burke had been drinking that night, then rear-ended another vehicle and drove off. A patrolman hopped onto the running board of Burke's car, but he was shot 3 times and died of his wounds that night. The car was found wrecked and abandoned just outside St. Joseph and traced to Fred Dane. By this time, police photos confirmed that Dane was in fact Fred Burke, wanted by the Chicago police for his participation in the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. Police raided Burke's bungalow and found a large trunk containing a bulletproof vest, almost 300... Also, what was a bulletproof vest in 1929? Was it potatoes stuffed in a vest?
I don't know.
Maybe the clothing person also made those. Anyway, he had almost $320,000 in bonds recently stolen from a Wisconsin bank, 2 Thompson submachine guns, pistols, 2 shotguns, and thousands of rounds of ammo. St. Joseph authorities immediately notified the Chicago police, who requested both of the machine guns. They also discovered that one of the guns had also been used to murder New York mobster Frankie Yale a year and a half earlier. Unfortunately, no further concrete evidence surfaced in the massacre case. Burke was captured over a year later on a Missouri farm, though. It took over a year. He's on a farm in Missouri, just living his best life, selling those bonds. Actually, his bonds were probably taken. I wonder what they did with those. Gave them back?
I don't know.
Or does the government just, like, seize it?
Probably.
He was tried in Michigan and subsequently sentenced to life imprisonment. He died in prison in 1940. Damn, he almost got away on that Missouri farm.
Hate to see it, yeah.
At least he had a good year with, like, cows and pigs.
Yeah, hopefully it was relaxing.
Hopefully it was peaceful. On January 8th, 1935, FBI agents surrounded a Chicago apartment building looking for the remaining members of the Barker Gang. Here's another gang going on. Barker Gang. A brief shootout erupted, resulting in the death of a bank robber, Russell Gibson. Taken into custody were Doc Barker, Byron, and 2 women. Bolton was a Navy machine gunner and associate of Egan's Rats, and he had been the valet of Chicago hitman Fred Goetz. Bolton was privy to many of the Barker gang's crimes. Bolton said he took part in the St. Valentine's Day Massacre with Goetz, Fred Burke, and several others. The FBI had no jurisdiction in his state murder case, so they kept Bolton's revelations confidential until the Chicago American newspaper reported a second-hand version of his confession. The newspaper declared that the crime had been solved despite being stonewalled by Edgar Hoover and the FBI, who did not want any part of the massacre case. Bolton, it was reported, said that the plan to murder Bugs Moran had been plotted in October or November 1928 in Wisconsin resort owned by Fred Goetz. Present at this meeting were Goetz, Al Capone, Frank Nitti, Fred Burke, Gus Winkler, Louis Champagne, Daniel Saratella, William whatever, and Bolton. The men stayed 2 or 3 weeks hunting and fishing when they were not planning the murder of their enemies. Bolton gave an account of the massacre different from the one generally told by historians, though. He said that he saw only plainclothes men exit the Cadillac and go into the garage. This indicates that there might have been a second car which were used by the killers. Bolton said that he had mistaken one of Moran's men to be Moran, after which he telephoned the signal to the Circus Cafe. The killers had expected to kill Moran and 2 or 3 of his men, but they were unexpectedly confronted with 7 men. They simply decided to kill them all and get out fast. Bolton said that Capone was furious with him for his mistake and the resulting police pressure and threatened to kill him, only to be dissuaded by Fred. His claims were corroborated by Gus Winkler's widow, Georgette, in an official FBI statement and in her memoirs, which were published in a 4-part series in a True Detective magazine during the winter of 1935 to 1936. She revealed that her husband and his friends had formed a special crew used by Capone for high-risk jobs. The mob boss was said to have trusted them implicitly and nicknamed them the American Boys. Bolton's statements were also backed up by William Drury, a Chicago detective who had stayed on the massacre case long after everyone else had given up. Bank robber Alvin Karpus later said to have heard secondhand from Ray Nugent about the massacre and that the American Boys were paid a collective salary of $2,000 a week plus bonuses. Karpus also said that Capone had told him while they were in Alcatraz together that Goetz had been the actual planner of the massacre. Despite Byron Bolton's statements, no action was taken by the FBI. All of the men whom he named were dead by 1935, with the exception of Burke and Maddox. Historians to this day are still divided on whether or not the American Boys committed the St. Valentine's Day Massacre, so let me know in the comments. Do you think the American Boys did it? Who do you think did it? It's kind of confusing. It's a lot. There's a lot of players involved, but that's what happens when you're dealing with gangs. Multiple. During the Prohibition era. So what is the site now? Right? What is this, is the garage still there?
Over the years, the building underwent various renovations and changes, but it remained largely intact until the 1990s when it was demolished to make way for a high-rise condominium building, which is now a nursing home. Some pieces of memorabilia and artifacts from the building, such as tiles and bricks, may have been kept by local residents or collectors, but it is unknown for certain if any of the original bricks from the building still exists. About 60 bricks from the building were collected by a Canadian man who built a replica wall in the bathroom of his bar, which is kind of weird, like
a bathroom?
Yeah, you would think you'd want to put that on display.
Or like the behind the bar.
So this bar ended up failing.
Probably because he put it in the bathroom.
Those bricks were distributed and sold, said to have been sold to collectors all over the world. And it's interesting because it's a little, tall tale that anyone who owns these bricks dies in like a tragic way.
Yeah, and just like bad things happen to them, like the businessman or the bar owner or whatever.
There's a wall in the Mob Museum in Las Vegas that claims to have some of the original bricks and is actually rebuilt, but the claim is unfounded.
I'm going to play the video of us at the site now so you can get a little vlog action. You can see for yourself what it looks like. And if you enjoy this, vlog kind of format, let us know in the comments so we can start including potentially some videos if relevant to whatever podcast topic we're talking about.
We'll start going to creepy places.
We are here at the site of the St. Valentine's Day Massacre, bringing it to you here on Cauldron Convos. We're the only podcast out there that goes to the actual site of the massacres that we talk about. That's not good. But let's go out and try to talk to him. St. Valentine's Day Massacre. The killings happened near the tree. Okay, well, there's just this tree, or is it that tree? Let's ask them. Hello. Wait, what are their names again? Okay, let's go by the tree, actually. Should I touch the tree? Well, do you think the ghost will come out if I touch it?
I say touch it.
Okay. Peter Gusenberg. I shouldn't be messing with ghosts that are gang members, right? Whatever. You're cool. You know, we don't like what they did to you. We don't like what Al Capone allegedly did to you, right? I mean, that's messed up. Really? Dressing up as a fake police officer, that's low. Like, at least have the, like, you know, do a shootout, you know, give them a chance.
It's a war crime, technically.
It's a war crime. Albert Kachalak, Adam Heyer, Reinhard Schwimmer, Albert Weinshank, and John May. Are you guys here? I still see the blood marks. Just kidding. That was not funny.
100 years later.
This was the spot. Do you have anything to say? Do you have any drinks I could pour out? Damn it.
Pour some out for the Irish homies. If you look on Google, that's the shot you see.
Okay, let's reenact it. Pop me. No, it's more like... Go. I'm still alive. Okay, I feel like this is like a video that's
now you're gonna get canceled
one day. Like, really? Are you against Irish people? Did you see that? I think he moved it, Frank Guggenberg. Oh my god, did you see that? Al Capone just tried to shoot me. He wasn't even there. Alright, anyway, we're done. We hope you guys liked that. If you did like that little vlog clip in there, let us know again in the comments below. We were talking to ghosts in the video, and it is rumored that this site is actually haunted by the spirits of the 7 gangsters who were killed there on February 14th, 1929. Over the years, people have reported strange noises, unexplained sightings, and eerie sensations at the site. I don't know if I really experienced an eerie sensation. I think I probably would have experienced more if it was still a garage.
What I would do for a little eerie sensation, if you know what I mean, at the site.
Also, like, the whole, like, nursing home parking lot also kind of, like...
Kills the vibe.
Kills the vibe. Like, all the cars are, like, I don't know.
Like, really run
1999,
down
like...
They've
Chevy
been there
Impalas.
since the demolition.
And thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you like this true crime gang mob St. Valentine's Day Massacre video, make sure to throw it a like, subscribe to this channel because we post here every single week. I hope you guys like this video, and we'll see you guys next time here on Cauldron Convos.
Peace.
Bye.